Hi everyone, welcome to another new video of Code and Clarity. Today we are going to look at something very important in the backend development, that is SQL versus NoSQL. Think of databases as notebooks where we store information. But did you know there are different types of notebooks? Some have fixed formats like ruled pages and some are blank and totally fixable. That's exactly what SQL and NoSQL are. Let's understand them in a very easy way. Now, what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. These are like ruled notebooks. You have proper rows and columns, and everything you write must follow the same format. For example, there is a table called students, and the table has columns named ID, name, age, and you enter each entry as the rows. Like the first entry has the ID 1 and the corresponding details. Similarly, the second entry has the ID 2 and the corresponding details. So before you write anything, you have to first decide the format of the table. Like that, SQL databases are basically the relational databases. Now, data is stored in tables which are containing rows and columns, and you need a predefined schema. That means the structure must be decided before you insert data in that. So, some common SQL databases are MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, MS SQL Server. Now, what is NoSQL? Now, NoSQL means not only SQL. These are more like blank notebooks. You can write anything in any style in case of blank notebooks. You don't need any fixed format to write. For example, MongoDB allows you to store data in a JSON file. Now, so what is a JSON file or the JSON format? Suppose in a second bracket, you can write in a record, and in that record, you just enter the values like a key value pair. There will be a key and you write a corresponding value to that key after a colon sign. So, like that. Suppose the first JSON contains ID colon 1, then the second line is name colon Rahul, the third line is skills colon, and you in an array you write down Java SQL, and the next entry even can have a different structure. So you no need to define the columns in advance. So these are the non-relational databases. Data doesn't need to be stored in tables. They support flexible or schema-less data. You can store in different types. Now let's switch to the differences. Now, what are the key differences? We will be discussing it on the basis of the features. So the first feature is data model. The SQL databases have a table data model like rows and columns. The NoSQL databases have a can be document, key value pairs, graph, column, etc. Now the SQL schema is fixed and predefined, and whereas the NoSQL schema is dynamic or flexible. The scalability, the SQL scalability is vertical, that is, it adds much more power to one server, and the NoSQL schema is horizontal, that is, it can add much more server. The query language in case of SQL is structured query language, and in case of NoSQL, it varies depending on the databases. Now, in case of transactions, the SQL transactions are ACID compliant. ACID means atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. And the NoSQL databases often eventual consistency, and some of them actually support the ACID. Now, the next is performance. Now, SQL databases are fast for structured queries, and NoSQL databases are fast for large and unstructured data. Now, the use cases. Now, SQL databases are used in banking, then enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, then e commerce data. And whereas the NoSQL databases are used in case of real time analytics, then the social media applications, then Internet of Things. So, these are actually some of the basic differences of the SQL databases and the NoSQL databases. Now, the NoSQL databases examples can be the MongoDB, and also it can be the Cassandra and etc. So the MongoDB is mostly used in case of Monster. Now the question is where to use SQL and when to use the NoSQL. Now where SQL is used. Now, SQL is used in case of banking systems because transactions must be accurate in them. Also, in case of inventory management, in case of student or employee databases. Basically, when you need relationships in between the data, that is the foreign keys. And the next reason is like when the data consistency matters, like in case of banking transactions. Now, when your data doesn't change very often, the data is consistent, then also you can use the SQL databases. Now, for example, in case of a bank transaction, if rupees 500 is transferred, now both debit and credit must happen correctly. So we need strict ACID transactions. Now, SQL is perfect in this case. And when to use NoSQL? NoSQL is used in social media feed, real-time chat, log data, etc. Now, suppose when we are working with a large scale or big data, and when the data changes very frequently and is or semi-structured and or unstructured, and when you need very high scalability and faster performance. So, uh, for example, Instagram stores millions of posts every minute. Now the data keeps changing and the structure may vary in every case. So NoSQL works better in these cases because it is flexible and scalable. So this is the case scenarios when to use SQL and when to use NoSQL. Now let's discuss a quick example. Suppose you are building a banking application. Now in that case, all the transactions must be 100% correct and consistent. So in that case, use SQL. Now imagine a real-time chat application with millions of incoming messages and outgoing messages every second. So in this case, NoSQL is better. So, to summarize, SQL is structured, relational, and consistent. And whereas NoSQL is flexible, scalable, and good for big data. Now, both are equally useful. You just have to pick the right tool for the right task. They are not competitors, they solve different problems. Understand your application requirements first and then pick the database accordingly. This is all about SQL and NoSQL. Now, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like and share the video and subscribe to my channel. And let me know in the comment sections for which topic you want me to make the next video. Thank you. Have a good day.